stay seated for a little bit so I can share the initial reading with you guys. And if you want to play your music, you can get that started. I'm just going to play mine really soft back here. Okay. So higher love. According to the Shunyamurti teachings, there are 7 levels of love. The first is more of a love based on neediness. Demand for gratification. I need this, you're going to give it to me. It's kind of like an infantile kind of love. Sorry, let me just mute everybody. Sorry. I feel a little disorganized this morning. I'm sorry, guys. It's because I had this technical difficulty. But I'm hearing feedback, so I'm going to mute. Okay. All right, so go ahead and just stay in that chest opener. So I had the first of the levels of love. The second is the love of being loved. So it's more of a codependent kind of love, and having always the need for approval from another person. The third is conditional love. So it's not an altruistic kind of love. It's a love that's like, one day I'll love you, the next day I won't love you. One day I love this, the next day I don't love this. The fourth level is the love of commonwealth. So this is like the love, the well-being of the community, wanting to raise consciousness, but it's still kind of not altruistic because there's this sense of, I want to better the community for my own benefit, right? So almost like when there's still a need for profit or gain from this type of love. The fifth level is the love of the whole world, nature, sustainability, continuity, the well-being of the species and the community, without that kind of piece of what's in it for me. The sixth level is the love of God, the ultimate reality of goodness, truth, and light. Devotion to an entity. But at this level, there's still this sense of wanting things, right? So we can be angry because something didn't happen or something did happen. So we can be angry at God, angry at the universe. So there's still this sense of separation. So that's the sixth level. And then the seventh level is the ultimate. So this is infinite love. And at this level, there's no external thing to complete you. It's a pure essence of love and light, unaffected by reactivity. And everything else that is not love falls away. And this is the type of love that we sort of work toward in a yoga practice. It's called para bhakti. Para bhakti is a term that refers to a form of devotion that transcends all worldly concerns. It is characterized by pure, selfless, humble love and respect for the divine. This form of devotion is considered the highest level of bhakti, where the devotee kind of loves everything, everywhere, experiences the divine manifested in the whole universe. So this sense of oneness that we want to cultivate in a yoga practice, right? So I think we've all experienced this. We come, we do our practice, and there's this sense of everything's wonderful, right? Everything's good with the world, and we've kind of come into this place of parabhakti. So that's what our practice is all about today. Can we find that sense of oneness that really means there's no separation, there's no duality, and we experience this sense of being at one with everything. All right, let's go ahead and get some movement going. Take your arms straight up toward the ceiling, palms facing in. And then interlace your palms and press your palms toward the ceiling. And so in the practice today, we're going to work on releasing, any body armor in and around the heart. So we're going to reach up through the arms and then slowly start to take the arms a little bit more overhead. Now, listen to your body. At any point, if it gets to be too much, you're going to stop. Now, pause when you go a few more inches. We're not going all the way overhead yet. And we're going to bring the hands down toward the chest and then re-extend them up and then go a few more inches. Okay, so we're going to repeat that. Bring the arms down toward the head or the chest and extend, and then take them a few more inches overhead. And keep doing that until you've gone as far as you could go today. Okay, maybe you get all the way to the floor, maybe not. So we're just bending, and you'll notice as you get a little bit higher with the arms, you get more opening into the chest. And then once you get about as far as you can go, hold it there. Sorry, I got something in my way. All right. Hold the arms overhead with that clasp wherever you can. So it might be here, here, all the way to the floor. If you can go all the way to the floor. And now take a couple breaths. See if you could breathe into your side ribs. So we've talked about other times how the rib cage is sort of like a cage for the heart. It protects the lungs, it protects the heart space. But we can get that body armoring in and around the area around the heart, especially if we're dealing with a lot of stress, trauma, protecting the heart. The fascia around the heart will tighten up. So breathe wide into your side ribs. Do that one more breath. And then go ahead and release, let your arms come back down. Take a breath or two. Now we're going to come into a twist. So we're going to take our hips a little to the right. Drop your knees over to the left. It's almost like you're doing a windshield wiper. Your knees could be stacked, they could be separated. I like to kind of separate mine. So one leg is, down on the floor and the other one too, so they're not stacked. But if it feels better to stack, you can stack. And now feel how that kind of opens up. So my knees are going to the left. It opens up a bit through the right side of the body. Now take the arms back up overhead, interlace your palms, press your palms up, and start to take your arms back up overhead. You don't have to do the bend and straighten this time. Go as far as you can and now hold it. And breathe. Just kind of tune in, especially into that right side of your rib cage. Now from here, bend your elbows, bring your hands toward the top of your head. Then we're going to take the arms over to the left into a bit of a side bend. Turn your head to the left, and then come back to the center, hands toward the top of your head. Now over to the right a little bit. So you're taking those arms on a slight angle out to the side, and then come back to the center and straighten through the center again. Big breath in and out. And then let the arms float back down. So you might notice, in addition to opening up through the ribs and kind of the lower abdomen, maybe you're getting a little bit of chest, shoulders as well. Now bring those knees back up. Take your hips a little bit over to the left and drop your knees over to the right. By the way, if something happens with my iPad screen and I don't notice it, feel free to unmute and let me know because it's not behaving for me today. Okay, now knees are over to the right. I'm going to take those arms straight up, interlace the palms, and take the palms up and overhead as far as you can. And breathe. Take a few breaths. Just notice now that left side. Can you bring some breath into the left side rib cage, left side abdomen? One more. And then we're going to do that little side bend. So bend your elbows, bring your hands towards your head, and then over to the right a little bit. You might turn over to the right, reach, straighten the arms if you can, and then back to the top of the head and over to the other side. Turn your head in the direction of the arms. Notice kind of that armpit chest area, and then come back, and one more time, straighten through the center. Full breath in and out. And then slowly lower the arms and bring your knees back to the center. Okay, from here we're going to start to come off of those blocks. So go ahead and lift yourself up. Come off of the blocks. Set the blocks toward the top of your mat so you have them later. And then just come down on your back. Give your knees a little hug into your chest. And rock a little bit, release your lower back. And then we're going to roll to our side and come on up into a seated position. And feel free to sit up on a blanket or prop if you like. Okay. All right. Sit up nice and tall. And then we're going to do that same thing. Reach your arms overhead. Interlace your palms. Press your palms up. And then we're going to bring the hands down toward the top of the head. Just kind of feel that opening in and around the chest. And then slowly re-extend. Arms reaching up. Good. And then hands come back down toward the top of the head. This time over to the right. And slowly re-extend the arms and just kind of feel how this opens up the side body here. Back to the top of the head and then over to the other side. Side bend and then slowly extend through the arms. Okay, let's go ahead and do a few rounds on your own, side to side. And just notice where you're holding restriction, body armoring around the area of your heart and your chest. So the yogis have a word for this. It's called granti. And a granti is a knot in our fabric of our being. Let's do one more round on each side after this one. So grantis, these knots in the fabric of our being, we can work on dissolving them through our awareness, through our breath, through our movement. Now back to center, reach those arms up through center one more time. Big circle, bring your hands back behind you onto the floor. And then press down, lift up to your heart center. Think about pulling your collarbones wide, opening your chest. Take a few breaths. And as you breathe here, press your heart up toward the ceiling. Let the heart reach higher and higher. And just connecting to that higher love within yourself. One more breath. And slowly release. Okay, let's come into all fours and do 5 rounds of cat-cows. And after 5 rounds of cat-cows, go ahead and move back into a child's pose. Take your time and slowly. So when it comes to experiencing those higher states of love and oneness, right, we want to start to really have a sense of communing with our own mind, body, and spirit. And when we go too quickly, we kind of bypass that, right? We're just on autopilot and we're not really tuning in to what we're feeling. We'll finish out those 5 rounds and then a little brief rest in your child's pose. On your next inhale, we're going to come up onto our knees. So stand up on your knees. Good. And then let's go ahead and grab our 2 blocks and put one block on either side of you and come back standing on your knees. All right. We're going to do that same patterning that we did before in a different position. Now arms overhead, interlace your palms. They're going to go on top, like kind of on top of your head, and then slowly re-extend. And as you re-extend, pull down through your tailbone. And now let's add the side bend. Go ahead and hands toward the top of the head. Side bend over to your right. Keep your tailbone pulling forward. And then back to the center and over to the other side. Let's do one more on each side. Good, and then release your hands down. Okay, from here, we're going to take our right leg out to the side. We'll do gate pose, Parigasana. Again, make sure your tailbone's drawing down, because if we side bend and we have a big arch in our lower back, it's going to really kind of congest the lower back. So we want to be long through the lower back. Reach the arms up. Interlace your palms, press up. Good, then bring the hands toward the top of the head, side bend toward your right leg. Keep a little micro bend in that right knee. Pull the tailbone forward and in, and go as far as you can. Hold here, and then bring your hands toward the top of your head, and re-extend over to the side. Good. Now right hand's going to come down, find your block. Left arm's going to stay up. We're going to slowly come deeper into that side bend, as far as you feel comfortable doing so. Keep pulling tailbone forward. Hold here and feel how this opens up that side of the rib cage, the side of that heart space, and breathe. Nice full deep breaths into the side body. And now from here, we're going to start to dip a little forward and start to come down toward a seated position. You might want to watch for a moment. I'm going to let that top arm start to rotate a little bit toward the floor. I'm still in my side bend. And now I'm going to sit back. You might need to move your block. Sit back toward the floor. So you can sit back as far as you can onto that left heel and fold inside the leg. You can't go as far as I am, no worries, do what you can. And then walk your hands in front of you, keep that leg out to the side. Okay, so you guys want me to do that again? I'll do that again. Okay, arms up, we're in the side bend, okay? Yeah. And then I'm gonna let that left arm come over to the right, almost like I'm making a circle, and start to sit back toward the floor, okay? And then fold in as far as you can. From there, we're walking the hands back in front of you and lifting the hips. And now we're gonna do thread the needle pose, okay? So left arm reaches up, inhale, good. Thread that arm through and come in to thread the needle. Right arm, you might take up toward the ceiling. You might leave it on the floor. Or you might wrap it around your back, and then you'll open up a bit more into the front of the right side of the chest. Now hold it there, maybe 2 more breaths. We're also opening up the area around the back of the heart. So we're getting all the areas, the chest, the rib cage, the back of the heart today. All these places where we might be holding our body armor around our heart. Walk yourself back toward the center when you're ready and bring that knee back in. Take a child's pose. All right, let's do our other side. Come all the way up onto your knees. Take your left leg out to the side. Inhale, reach your arms up. Interlace your palms, bring them toward the top of your head. Keep your tailbone drawing forward and slowly re-extend. Now we'll come into the side bend toward the left, tailbone still forward, and then bend the elbows and slowly re-extend. Do that one more time. Opening on the side ribs. Okay, now release your left hand down to your block. You could even go to your leg if you want, and go a little deeper if you can into that side bend. Okay, here comes that tricky transition. We're gonna slowly start to bring that hand forward into the floor and sit back as far as you can toward the floor. You might be sitting on your right heel if you're going all the way. Don't feel like you have to. And then coming back up, hands under your shoulders, thread the needle. I know, a little tricky sequence. Inhale, reach that right arm up. Exhale, thread it through. Very good. Option to keep the hand on the floor, straight up, or wrap it around your back. Okay. And then a few breaths there. Breathe into the back of your heart space here. Good. Slowly release that hand back down. Step back to center, child's pose. Okay, so we're going to get into a little bit of a flow here. From child's pose, come up into tabletop. Inhale, lift your chest, lift your heart. Exhale, down dog. Lift your hips up and back. Good, knees to the floor. Inhale, table. Exhale, child's pose. Inhale, come up on your knees, reach your arms overhead. And then a big circle of your arms to the back. Big circle. Open up through your chest. Lift up through your heart. Inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale, tabletop position. From tabletop, keep your hips over your knees. We're coming into puppy pose. Walk your arms forward. Hold the sides of your mat. And then go as far forward as you can and let your chest melt toward the floor, keeping your hips and your sit bones up. Maybe your head gets all the way to the floor. Maybe you need a prop under your head. Pull forward with your arms and let your heart melt toward the floor. Good. Slowly start to lift your head and chest. Walk your hands back in underneath your shoulders. Tuck your toes, downward facing dog. Knees to the floor. Inhale, table. Exhale, child's. Inhale all the way up onto your knees. Reach high and then a big circle. Lift your heart up toward the ceiling. Reach the arms behind you and turn your palms forward. Inhale, reach high. Exhale, tabletop position. This time, right forearm down, parallel to your mat. And then reach your left arm forward to the top of your mat. And let your forehead rest, if it can, on your forearm. Maybe you walk your knees back a little bit and pull your hips back, away from your left hand. Breathe deeply and kind of getting into that armpit chest area. Good, and then come up and switch. Left forearm parallel to the top of the mat. Right arm reaches forward. Head to your forearm if you can. And then let the hips pull back. Deep breaths. Go ahead and walk that right hand back in, back to tabletop position, child's pose. Inhale, table, exhale, downward facing dog. Knees to the floor. Inhale, circle your arms up overhead, come onto your knees. Big circle, reach the arms behind you. This time, interlace your palms. Pull the palms apart, lift your heart toward the sky. Just lift the heart toward that higher love. Nice full breath in here. And then release. Inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale, hands to the floor. Downward facing dog. This time, right leg straight up behind you. We're going to step it through into a lunge and drop your back knee to the floor. And then we'll come on up. Inhale, reach your arms up. From here, bring your right hand to your hip. Reach your left arm up. Reach it as high as you can and firm your hips into center. As you're creating that stability in your lower body, come into a side bend to your right. So we want to really keep that right hip squeezing in. Breathe into that left side. Good, slowly come up. And now bring that same hand behind your back. And then the right hand's gonna hold the elbow. Inhale, reach the elbows up. Keep hugging those inner thighs and outer hips in. Again, side bend to the right. Now this time you may wanna deepen. If you want to, you can go a little bit further. First of all, you could side bend a little more. Keep your tailbone kind of drawing forward. You might drop your hips toward the floor. And you might lean back a little bit. So just kind of play with that. See what feels good in your body. Stay really grounded through your front foot and your back leg. And then reach both arms up into the back. Hands down. Step back, table. Child's pose. Inhale, table. Exhale, down dog. Second side, inhale, left leg up. Step it through to your lunge, back knee to the floor. And inhale, circle your arms up. Good, left hand to your left hip. Kind of hugging the outer hips in, drawing the tailbone forward. Let's reach high with that right arm. And then side bend to your left, keeping the outer hips firming in. And just breathe with the intention of releasing any blocked energy, any grunties, any body armor through that right side. All right, come back up, bring that right hand behind the back of your head. Hold the elbow with your left hand. Inhale, reach both elbows up. And then again, side bend to your left. Keep those outer hips squeezing in. Reach through the right elbow. Maybe deepen. So you might side bend, deepen the lunge, lean back a little. Really press through that front foot. And then inhale, reach up into the back. Hands come down. Downward facing dog. Knees down, child's pose. Take a moment there. Go ahead and take another breath or two. All right, coming back up, tabletop position. Take your right leg straight back behind you. Lift that leg up, lift your chest, bend the right knee. Keep lifting the thigh and the chest. Press through your palms and turn your elbows a little forward. Good, release. Other side. Left leg back. Lift your head and chest, lift the leg, bend the knee. And then see if you can lift the thigh, lift the chest, turn your elbows a little forward. Good, release. Child's pose. Adding on, come forward. You can repeat that. Or we're going to see if we can hold the foot. So lift the leg, lift the head, lift the chest, bend the knee. Reach your left leg back. Now my left toes could be flat or tucked, up to you. See if you can hold the foot. If you can't, you're just gonna reach, okay? And then lift the thigh, lift the chest, turn the right elbow crease a little forward. And that helps keep the chest open. Kick your foot back. Good, release. Other side, leg back. Lift the leg, lift the head, lift the chest, bend the knee, and see if you can reach back with your opposite hand, hold that foot. And then lift the thigh, lift the chest, left elbow turns forward. Good, release. Child's pose. Okay, grab one block. So this is going to be a little different. We're going to do a little bit of back bending, but using the block here. So watch for a moment. I'm going to put the block under my right thigh and then come down. It's kind of asymmetrical. It's going to feel funny, yes. All right, so stay here. Come into Sphinx. And then we're going to bend that knee. So while we're doing this, we're getting some myofascial pressure into the thigh. You can stay like this or pull your hands towards your belly, let your belly drop and lift your chest. And you get a little deeper stretch on that front body. And then foot down, press in your arms, kind of come back toward neutral. And then bend the knee, hips drop, chest lifts. Now, if this is too much, skip the block. It can be a little intense on the tissues of the thigh, but it's breaking up tension. One more time. All right, and then release. Take the block to the front for a moment and just feel that right side. Okay, so switch it over. Block's gonna go under your left thigh. And we're in that asymmetrical Sphinx pose. Okay, then we're gonna bend the knee. Pull the hands toward the belly, maybe the hips drop. It gets deeper into your lower back. Lift your chest. And then bring the foot back down. And two more of those. So you could just lift the foot, or you could drop a little into your hips and pull. One more. This also gets into the psoas, as you might be noticing. Good, and then go ahead and release and come off of the block. Pause on your belly or sphinx, or if you need a child's pose or windshield wiper, feel free. Now we're going to do that same thing with both blocks. So grab both blocks, both thighs, and we're going to come up, both thighs on the blocks, down into your sphinx. So the thighs are supported. Now we're more symmetrical. Then both knees. You could stay there, maybe a little windshield wiper or something like that. Or hips drop a bit. Pull the hands toward the hips and come into that deeper back bend. Try to feel like you're going to lift your thighs up. And then release, feet down, back toward neutral. And 2 more. Last one. All right, walk your hands in and then come off of the blocks. Put the blocks short end to short end in front of you. And then we're going to put a blanket on top, so there's a little cushioning. And I'm folding my blanket in half. You could also use a bolster if you have a bolster at home. I'm showing this setup because I know a lot of people don't have a bolster at home, but a bolster might feel even better because the blocks are a little more of a harder surface. So we're going to come down and come into a supported sphinx. So your rib cage is up onto the props. Okay, so it's either a bolster or the block blanket setup. And then we're going to push in our hands and lift up, like we're doing seal pose. Okay, take your hands nice and wide, spread your fingers, lift up. So you're kind of barely on the blocks are somewhat supporting you. Okay, and lower down, readjust if you need to. Now we're going to bend the right knee. This time, same hand, reach back with your right hand, hold your foot, if you can. If not, you're reaching in that direction, okay? You can get the foot. And then left hand forward, push the hand into the floor and lift your chest. So now again, you're kind of light on those blocks or bolsters. Kick your foot back and turn your elbow forward and up, opening through your chest a bit more. So it's a supported half bow pose. And then release. And then other side. Bend the left knee. Reach back. Maybe you're just reaching. Maybe you can get the foot. And then right palm presses down and forward to lift your chest. And then kick your foot back and turn your elbow forward. Feel how that opens up the front of your left chest. Draw the shoulder back on that left side. And then release. Take a breath or two. Now we're going to do the full bow. If you like these blocks blankets, keep them. If you don't, you can do it without. It does help you lift up a little bit. So I'm catching the bottom of my ribs on the props, okay? And then bend the knees. Now initially it might feel a little funky, but once you get your feet and you kick back, you're barely on the blocks. They're just holding you up a little bit. And then kick your feet back, turn your elbows forward, and open that whole front body where we often have that armoring around our heart. And release. Press yourself up. Take your props out of the way. child's pose. Now take about 5 breaths there. Just softening inward. Stay with your breath. Remember, always listen to your body. Do what you can. Let's take 2 more breaths there. After your second breath, let's go ahead, come on up into a seated position again. And maybe you want to sit up on a pillow or a blanket. Keep your blocks within reach. Okay, we're gonna come into a wide leg position from here. Have your blocks on either side of you, point your toes and kneecaps up. Okay, so from here, the block to the right, you're gonna go ahead and rest your right forearm on that block. And it could be any level you like. It could be flat, it could be higher, you need it higher, okay? So I'm gonna go the low setting and then opposite hand to your hip. So doing some side bending today as well as back bending. All of those open up around the heart space. Now take your top shoulder, roll it back. You can always stay right here, or we're gonna take that left arm up. And then reach it nice and high and drape it over your ear. And again, take the chest, turn it up, the elbow up, maybe even look up toward the ceiling. Breathe into that left side. One more breath. Now before you come out, let's take that top arm back up, hand to the hip. Press down and come up by pressing the hip toward the floor, and it'll be a lot less lower back strain. Pause in the center. Breathe in, breathe out. Okay, let's go ahead, switch that block over. Well, I'm sorry, we have another block. We have to switch it over. So then we're gonna put the forearm on the block, whichever level works for you, other hand on the hip. And then roll your top shoulder back. So we feel like we're grounded through the sit bones. You can stay here or take that right arm up. And then maybe drape it over your ear if you want to go further. And try to sit back a little bit. Turn your chest up, maybe look up. And then hold here for a few breaths. Maybe reach a bit more through that top elbow to open your rib cage. One more breath. And then we're going to bring that top arm back up, hand to the hip. Press down to carefully bring yourself back to the center. Good, and then from here we'll hinge and fold through the center. Feel free to add blocks if you want for a little head support. You could support your head any level you like here. Now just tuning into your breath, tuning into the rib cage space, the flow of the breath, and the whole heart space. Last 2 breaths. And when you're ready, slowly starting to bring yourself back up. Pause when you get to the vertical position. And then we'll use our hands, lift the knees, bring the legs together. Okay, so we're gonna finish with the pose on our back, the one called cat pulling its tail. You guys know I love this one, haven't done it in a while. So if you want, you can have a strap because that may help you get into this pose. You might want to watch first so I can show you the options if you've forgotten how to do this one. Okay, so you can watch for a moment. We're on our backs and we can come into a little twist. I'm going to offset my hips to the right, knees to the left. And then I'm going to extend my top leg. Okay, so that's kind of stage 1. And you can get a nice stretch here through your lower back after all the back bending. And then if you want to go further, you could hold that foot if you want. You could use a strap. But the cat pulling the tail is really about the back foot. So I'm going to see if I can move this leg back. And if possible, I will hold that foot. You might even be able to put a strap around that foot. And then try to get this top shoulder to the floor so it opens up that chest area again. Okay, so let's give it a try. If you haven't done so, let's just offset the hips a little bit, drop your knees to the left, and extend the right leg. It could be where you stay. Or you can hold one or both of the feet. Maybe you use a strap. So we're going to see if we can hold that left foot with the right hand. Left foot with the right hand. And then try to get your left shoulder blade over to the left, which will open your chest. Right shoulder drops toward the floor. Look over the right shoulder. And maybe you hold your top leg with your other hand. You could hold by your knee. You could hold by your shin, or maybe you can hold both feet. Maybe you have a strap. If you want to open even more, press into the floor with your legs, your shoulders, and it'll help you open up a bit more. And now breathe. Notice where you have that body armor, maybe around your back ribs. Where are you holding on to those barriers to higher love? Okay, when you're ready, slowly release. Come back to the center and even out, pause for a moment. And just stay there for a moment. I'm going to share this Rumi quote that I didn't share in the beginning. Rumi said, "Their task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it." And then the last part of that is embracing them. So your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it and embrace those barriers. So we really look into these barriers, we investigate them, we try to release these knots within us. Let's try the other side. So left, hips a little to the left, drop your knees toward the right. Extend the top leg. Maybe you can hold the leg or the foot. But I like to get the other foot first before I get that leg, because once you get that leg, it's really hard to get the other leg. So bottom leg, scoot it back a bit and see if you can get the foot, and then roll your chest open. Bring your right shoulder blade to the right. And then maybe you're using a strap or your hand holding both feet. Roll your chest open, look over your left shoulder. Deep breaths. And if you want to go farther, you're going to press into the floor. Legs, arms, shoulders, head will help you open up a bit more. So every time we practice, we're starting to dissolve these barriers between ourselves and that higher love. We can get stuck in those lower ones, the neediness, the codependency, the possessiveness. When we dissolve the knots around the heart, it is said that we can reach into those higher levels. Good. Slowly release. Come back to the center. Even yourself out. Pause there for a moment. Just kind of feel the after effects of that deep pose. And then let's go ahead and bring the knees in for a good hug. Did a lot of work that maybe stressed the lower back. So go ahead and rock it out, circle it out, massage the lower back. Maybe you want to do some knee circles. Knees going in opposite directions. Just to soothe that lower back. And if you like, you can also move into a happy baby pose if you prefer. If you don't like happy baby, stick with some knee hugs. Windshield wipers, another good option. You want to make sure the lower back is comfortable before we get into our Shavasana. Hug the knees back in, and if you still have like a bolster or a rolled up blanket, let's put that underneath your knees and get ready for relaxation time. So add any layers, props that you might wish to have. I'm going to come on up to sit. Guide you guys through your Shavasana. So take your time and get yourself settled. Make sure you're warm, comfortable. And once you're there, coming into a very soft breath. Tune in to that place we call the heart center. So it's not the anatomical heart. It's more the center of your chest, the energetic heart, the heart chakra. The name for the heart chakra is Anahata. 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 Anahata means unstruck. And so it implies this pure place within us, place of pure love. It doesn't require anything of us in order to deserve it. We don't have to earn it. We don't have to deserve it. It just is. If we allow ourselves to dissolve the barriers to feeling it, to being it, to living it. So as you breathe and tune into heart center, I'd like you to picture the color pink today. And so there's a stone associated with the heart called the rose quartz. You might picture the color of the rose quartz. It's a soft pink. Feel it like a pink cloud, very, very gentle, soft breath in the heart space. Maybe like pink roses or pink cotton candy. Very gentle, delicate softness in the heart. As if you could dissolve any remaining barriers that you have there. And embrace them. Know what comes between you and higher love. It takes a lot of courage to dissolve these blockages, because there is a vulnerability underneath the armor. And that pink, almost an innocent color, like a baby's cheek. Come back to innocence. The place of anahata, the unstruck. A place of love before the heartaches, the traumas, the neediness, the codependencies. A place of pure love that has always been and always will be. And so I'll share a reading as you continue to rest in Shavasana. This is by Lynn Aselta. And still, despite it all, we must have love. We must welcome it in whenever it arrives. Of course, we will love the easy things, the blue skies and spring after a long winter, fireflies and good music and dark chocolate. But one must also decide to love the unlovable, to love the ant in the cupboard and marvel at its strength, to love the neighbor who makes too much noise in his yard on quiet evenings, for perhaps it is the only night available to him. To love the one who is different from oneself, for you cannot truly know what life has brought to them. One must love the full moon and the traffic jam and the day-old muffin. One must love the absurdity of the flat tire, inasmuch as one loves the spontaneous affection of a child. One must simply want to love it all somehow. We may love less those things that are not understood. We must love the process of learning to understand. When one accepts it all, embraces it all, clears the way, it is then that love arrives, knocking enthusiastically at the door. It's found that the porch light is on, and the windows are glowing softly in the dusk, and you are finally at home. Take a moment now and notice the effects of your practice of removing the knots, the barriers to higher love. And the peace and the oneness you often feel after that time of communing mind, body, spirit. where perhaps you feel a little more capable of loving it all. Bring in those small movements when you are ready. Take your time. Move as you like before coming onto your side. We'll have a brief pause there. Eventually, go ahead and make your way up into a seated posture. Once you arrive there, let's go ahead and sit up nice and tall. As they sit up nice and tall through our center, open wide across the collarbones, the shoulders, and have a sense of the heart shining forward rather than collapsing downward. Really open up wide through the center and out through the sides, so we open up that heart space once again. And we'll bring our palms together in front of the heart space. And take an inhale, exhale, bow to your heart. Namaste. All right, thanks so much for zooming in with me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed.